Hello, everybody.
Does this thing still work?
Right? Am I talking? who am I talking to right now? I know I'm talking to you, Char.
Is anybody out there? If you are, hi. This is the Zocalo. We are open for business. We're just changing ownership to somebody. If somebody wants to pick up the mantle a little later on, that's cool. This is, I don't know, it's not really a farewell. I don't like to say farewell. I'm just like thinking this is kind of our last hurrah until next time, whenever that might be.
Yeah, exactly.
We're on indefinite hiatus.
Yeah, so we jumped right to the lead.
Yeah, you know what? I want to get that out of the way right now. Let's not sugarcoat it. Let's not hide it. This is not a big reveal. Right. We've been gone a long time anyway.
That's fair.
We're leading with that. And for those of you who might not know who we are, if this is your very first time, I'm sorry, this is the first thing you're watching. Go back and watch all the other stuff we've done. I'm Char, and that's Norm. And we are your lovely hosts.
Mm-hmm. And we have logged in little over, 100 some hours worth of Babylon 5 content, ranging from all different topics. And that's what we did. We talked about all things Babylon 5. We looked at the series overall, including the original 5-year mission. I say that like a Star Trek fan, but it is the original 5-year story arc, Crusade, the TNT movies, all of the different expansions, and even tangentially, we've done some stuff deeper into, like, say, Babylon 5-esque related topics. Like one of our most successful runs of our show was covering Joe Straczynski's autobiography, Becoming Superman.
Oh gosh, that was fun. And
yeah,
that
was great.
Hell of a book. If you haven't read it, or if you haven't listened to it, what are you doing? Go out, get yourself a copy. And while you're at it, get a copy of Together We Will Go, his newest fiction novel, which I thoroughly enjoyed.
Did you finish that? I haven't finished it yet.
I did. I read the book really quickly. Yeah. And then I got the audio version just to hear how that goes. I love both versions in different ways.
Yeah. I want to do the audio book. Like, I love audiobooks. I mean, I collect the regular hardback books just in case one day I'm at a convention and I'll bring like one of those with me, like Becoming Superman or Together We Will Go, so I can have Joe sign it. But until then, I'll do the audiobook version.
You listen to the audiobook, get the hardcover signed. That's not a bad strategy.
Yeah. Sure. Would you mind if I read a little bit from kind of like the notes that I posted here, just to kind of sum up where we are and kind of like how I was feeling when I was writing those notes?
Yeah, by all means. It's beautifully written. Do it.
Thank you. Just to give, again, this is for like the newer fans that will catch on to this show whenever you do. So welcome when you actually do come. And it's a little bit of an explanation to the fans that are with us, and let's say hi to them before I jump into it.
Yeah, we got the gang here. Thank you guys for showing up. It's going to be so much more fun with you rather than screaming into the void. Well, not screaming,
but we would do that too, because we do that.
We would. Yeah. And we know that if you wanted to come back, you come back later. If you want to see this, it's still going to be around. But nevertheless, the live show makes it fun when it's happening in the moment.
Exactly. And that's why we love doing it. So just to give a little bit of history here. So in late 2018, Char and I wanted to see if there was a way that she and I could come together as Babylon 5 fans to try and promote a little bit more awareness of the show as it was finally streaming on Amazon Prime. That was like the first big major network platform, quote unquote network platform, where it was going to get the most visibility. So we thought that we would start talking about it where people could actually access the show, because most people out there have a Prime access, say, as opposed to HBO Max now or even iTunes. And we've, crafted like 100 some odd hours worth of shows.
Yeah. Like you said earlier, a whole range of topics looking at the show comprehensively.
So one of the things I just kind of wanted to read verbatim is because it helps me not get too emotional about things. So I just wanted to say, we at the ZócaloCast want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for supporting us, believing in us, and enriching not only our lives, but the lives of your fellow fans and friends that have come together as a very special community, one that only Babylon 5 fans can truly appreciate and understand. And that's true.
So true. Babylon 5, we are a smaller community, but it's a really tight community, and Babylon 5 fans are diehard fans. We never let go.
Exactly. Now, even though that we're not going to be bringing you this kind of live stream content, on a weekly basis, and like I said, we don't know if we're going to pick this project up again in the foreseeable future because Char and I are both kind of like growing in our own life experiences right now.
So much has happened over the summer.
So much
we'll
has
tell
happened.
you all about it.
Yes. But our goal was to bring together a community. And Char, I can't even thank you enough for doing what you've done so far on the Discord community.
Oh, hey, buddy. Not a problem. Thank you for all that you have done to help bring this whole thing to life. I mean, I couldn't imagine doing this show with anybody else but you.
We've had some really fun shows. Like we've gotten into some deep discussions. We've gotten to discussions where we both kind of challenge each other about like how we interpreted certain shows, how those shows have affected us over time. But I think still one of my favorite shows I've done with you of all time is Drunk History Babylon 5.
Oh, we were so wasted.
So wasted. I paid for that so hard the next day, but it was worth it.
Oh, you and me both, buddy. I had to go to work the next day, and that was not fun.
Yeah, I bet.
Oh, it hurt. It hurt so much. I do not even remember how much I had. It was a lot. I mean, we hit the show. We pre-gamed.
Yeah.
You and I were drinking beforehand, and we were drinking during the show, and it was way more than I would normally go for. We were hardcore committing.
Oh,
but damn, it was fun.
Terry Lynn asked, what happened to the Bravari or our toast?
That's coming. I wanted you to get through your words, and then I was going to salute. So spoiler alert, that's going to happen.
I mean, Terry knows us so well. So what will the future bring? Who knows? One thing is for sure, though. I mean, if Char and I return to our posts here with that renewed or kind of like a new direction for the passion for talking about Babylon 5, you'll be the first to know, obviously. Then right now, it's just kind of like where our future lies and our trip, at least for now, beyond the rim of this show.
For now, but we don't know what's beyond the rim. So there's always a chance to come back. We have no idea. But yeah, right now, the circumstances leading up to today, I mean, I doubt this is actually a huge surprise, which is why I wanted to just throw it out there where if you're expecting some massive reveal and you want us to get all sad about it, nah, that's not what this is about. No. And so before we get into that, though, let's do this. Val 2 for writing a beautiful summary of what we have done in the last 3 years.
That's been a while.
It has been a while. Yeah. Once summer ramped up, things just got crazy for both of us. Things were really ramping up for you with Mission Log. And at the time, you were anticipating going to Las Vegas, the 55-year mission, which ultimately did not happen because COVID made a roaring comeback. Thank you, Delta variant. But nevertheless, you've been growing that community. You and John have just been knocking it out of the park as far as nurturing what you already had going and making it even bigger and more accessible to even more people. So that's cool.
Yeah, it's, and it's a lot of fun, but you do have to kind of put in the time, to help everyone in that community grow. And there are a lot of things kind of like behind the scenes with Mission Log that are going to probably be more of a time investment in order to further grow that community.
Projects?
So, things are, we have some irons in the fire for sure.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah,
I know you guys are always thinking, always considering new possibilities.
Well, we still have about 20 or so episodes left of Deep Space Nine. We still have 7 seasons of Voyager, 4 seasons of Enterprise. And then we're still talking about whether or not we're going to do the new series in the Mission Log format, as opposed to the only way that we're covering them right now, which is on Mission Log Live, which isn't technically the Mission Log format. It's more of a live review show.
Right. Yeah. I know it's a huge commitment, but I do hope that you eventually get to that.
Yeah. And then we're going to have to do I think the JJ movies are in there too.
Yep. Yeah, there's somewhere in between here. You've got, there's a lot more ground to go. And Mission Log has been going since 2012, right? Yeah,
I mean, it was going 7 years-ish before I joined. So I'm kind of like the second half, of this endurance run.
Man, yeah, but still going very strong. I mean, whenever I see something like, say, on Reddit or something, I don't even know where to begin with Star Trek podcasts. Who should I listen to? Mission Log is always at the top and mentioned the most.
It does have the benefit of the Roddenberry name for sure, but it also has the benefit of probably one of the most long-lived Star Trek podcasts that's out there that people kind of set their clock to, right? They know that every Thursday there's going to be a new episode that drops. That's something that's very, it's very important for people to have that kind of stability in their entertainment, the consistency, the continuity of that kind of a schedule, because these are the things in fandom that we look forward to.
Sure. Yeah. And you produce really good content. You guys dig deep. You go for as much analysis as you possibly can. You're not just spouting off your opinion like a lot of podcasts are. Hate to say.
Oh, we try, and I can't even thank Earl enough for all the work that he does behind the scenes, for us, editing the show and making John and I sound, our very best. So
yeah,
my hat's off to Earl.
Thank you for all of that work and for the wit of the computer voice.
Exactly, Earl. Ooh, I don't want to do the Wizard of Oz, pull the the curtain back and just see Earl kind of like, pay no attention to the editor behind this curtain, right? But the computer voice is amazing.
Oh, 100%. It's one of the things I look forward to the very most is commentary from the computer.
So do I, because we don't actually we get the notes, but I don't actually hear it like in its full effect until the show is out. So
nice.
Yeah, it's always a surprise.
That's super cool. So yeah, I mean, ever since you've been involved with Mission Log, because we were doing the Zocalo beforehand, and then you joined up on Mission Log. Once that happened, though, we knew Mission Log was more of a priority than the Zocalo because it's a bigger thing. It is more of a commitment. There is a little bit of monetary commitment involved, and therefore your priorities had to shift. And we always said, if something has to be sacrificed, it's going to be the Zocalo. Once in a while, that happened. But then over time, you've had a lot of life changes. So this summer, if we want to recap real quick, Mission Log had ramped up and you were doing live shows again on top of a lot of other things. You moved and you are now caring for some elders.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of responsibilities attached to that on top of other things. I know you've had some work commitments and you've been helping people out at your former employer. I mean, there's just been all sorts of stuff just pulling you in every which way.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, life kind of tells you exactly what you need to do and what you need to know and when you need to know it. And you have to, just read what's coming to you with open and honest heart and see what changes need to be made. And these are hard decisions. These are, I hate to sound, kind of, tropish about it, but these are adult decisions that you have to make in life, right?
Hard decisions. Yeah, because this has always been our thing for funsies. We're not making any money off of it. We're not merchandising. We're doing this strictly because we love the show this much. That's it. That's all. We've had a fantastic time doing it, no doubt. But yeah, when it comes to how can you possibly break down your time? Is there anything left for the things you want to do on top of the things you have to do? Well, that's where we had to pull the brakes this summer and realized, okay, for both of us, things are getting a little crazy. Let's take a hiatus. And then as time went on, I started to think, things aren't slowing down. I mean, if anything, they're just getting a little busier, if anything at all, or we're at least maintaining this level of intensity. And it occurred to me, we might not be able to come back. And so we started talking about that.
We did. Yeah. We had a nice long conversation. And if there's one thing that I always loved, doing the ZócaloCast for, aside from, talking to all of you wonderful people out there, was always having my weekly kind of catch up with Char, our pregame show that we had about half hour, maybe an hour before the show started, just to catch up with our lives. And, it's life, again, has the ability to educate you, but it also kind of like change your priorities at a moment's notice, for good or ill.
No doubt.
And sometimes, you have to seize opportunities as they come to you. So that's like the ZócaloCast was an opportunity of itself because it was it's like, talking about Babylon 5 codes. We were at the right place at the right time. The universe exactly put us where we were supposed to be.
Right.
So I believe that. I mean, I believe in pretty much all of Joe's teachings that you either heard from Char, you heard from Delenn. The universe will take care of itself and faith manages. I mean, we wouldn't be doing it if we didn't feel that in some way, shape, or form that those sentiments, those quotes, those mantras in some way affected our lives, more than we thought.
100%. Yeah. It's good stuff. Should we get into some comments before we continue? We've got a pretty decent crew here. So hello to Terry Lynn and BC and Earl, and Mountains of Elysium is here all the way over the pond. I do not know what time it is there, but thank you so much for tuning in. It's got to be either really early or really late, depending on how you think about it.
For you over the pond, it'll be +8. For me, it'll be +5. Yeah. So it's late.
Yeah. All right.
There. Yeah.
Yes. So I want to say hi to you all and Val too. And just thank you so much for joining this one last hurrah. Until next time, whenever that may be. If we get a wild hair up our butt, we'll let you know. And
yeah, sure.
We'll let you know what we're doing. Yeah. And speaking of which, so we've talked a little bit about what you're doing. Should I talk a little bit about what I'm doing?
Oh, I think it's only fair.
Okay. Yeah. So as a lot of you who are tuning in live know, you know that I've been taking classes and learning coding and programming, learning how to make websites. That has been my new thing. I decided last year, vastly influenced by COVID, that it was time for a career change. I wasn't completely happy with what I was doing or just the way my days were structured. I wanted change in my life. And I talked with a job coach who helped me prioritize the things that I did want and then helped me just determine, well, how do I get that? How do I get to that point? Well, learning how to code and working from home and having a skill that I could take anywhere with me, all those things came together in this one kind of industry. And I thought, I've always loved putting websites together just as a hobby. I taught myself HTML at 14 for the fun of it. So the thing is, I never totally progressed. I learned HTML. I learned a little bit of CSS. I did very basic things. And then things like Squarespace came out. So it took care of a lot of the more difficult coding work. And I never just really thought too much about it, having a career in this industry. Back when I finished high school, it even wasn't really an option. If you wanted to get into anything, computer or tech, you'd better get a computer science degree. That's what all the career counselors said. Yep. And it's so different now. You do not have to do that. It's an option. You can do it if you want, but it's not required. There's so many other ways you can learn. I took a little bit of institutional learning just in case a future employer cares about that sort of a thing. I did a 1-year program, but then on top of that, I'm just I'm self-taught. I'm learning as I go. And a lot of what I'm doing right now is learning in real time and showing people what I'm learning as I'm learning it. So you get to see it all raw, the mistakes, the victories, everything along the way. I try to update every now and then on social media, especially what I'm working on. And right now that's JavaScript. I really delved back into it and learning more complex stuff and learning how it really interacts with a fully functioning website. So I'm learning how to do some cool shit, if I can say that.
You can. You certainly can.
So I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's just going to be this constant ongoing learning process. And I love that. I'm not mad about that whatsoever. It's going to be this constant evolving thing because that's the web. It's changed tremendously since I started getting on the internet, in the mid 90s, and it's only going to continue doing so.
I mean, like right now, is a very interesting kind of like a shift in the way that people are getting their entertainment. So many people are in one of two camps right now. They're either in the Twitch camp or in the YouTube camp, but YouTube is actually starting to kind of poach like a lot of like YouTube entertainers or celebrities from Twitch.
It's true. Some people are unhappy with Twitch.
Yeah. So I think you're going to see just a lot more kind of like live streaming from, your favorite content providers moving forward. It'll be really interesting to see who takes on the mantle of kind of like what we're doing next. Because, at one point in time, we had, the Babylon podcast,
oh, yes.
So that filled up, the biggest void of any kind of like online presence for Babylon 5 podcasts, right?
That and what was it? It was an official guide to Babylon 5, the audio guide to Babylon 5.
Right.
I couldn't quite think of that word, but essentially it was considered by Joe to be the official podcast of episode reviews. Those two things, big time, filled that void.
Pretty much, so we were trying to figure out where we were going to find our place, find our voice, and kind of like share our passion with it. And we didn't really see anyone doing it from a live performance perspective on YouTube. So if for anything, we grew a very modest community here, but very loyal fans like yourselves. And we couldn't be more thankful for that.
Yeah.
But if people take this and grow, this entire aspect of talking about Babylon 5, and then from the perspective of only seeing it from the HBO remastered rewatch that they're doing or watch that they're doing, that's going to be a completely different discussion altogether, because they're seeing it 25 years after the fact without like all of the history behind it. Like very much like the way that I'm doing with Deep Space Nine on Mission Log right now. I don't have that history with all the fans that grew up with it since like the mid 1990s. I just don't. So I don't know the history. I don't know the baggage. I don't know like all of the ins and outs, the details, the messiness behind the scenes, what happened, the struggles. I do know that I was there for the Babylon 5 versus Deep Space Nine argument that happened also many years ago that, no one really cares about.
It still rages on message boards everywhere. We know this.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. It's like the Tuvix debate. It will never die.
Yeah, but Tuvix is way more morally important than the Babylon 5 versus Deep Space Nine argument, really.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And yet, neither one's
you're right.
Die.
Yeah. And it was funny too on my morning call, Mission Log Sunday morning. We were talking about that a little bit, and I said, you know what? I would love, if anyone would want to talk about it, I would love to talk about Babylon 5 versus Deep Space Nine from that standpoint, because here's my experience with those two shows and those two audiences. Babylon 5 fans have watched Babylon 5 and Deep Space Nine. Deep Space Nine fans have only watched Deep Space Nine while they're making this argument. Because if they saw both shows and gave both shows their due diligence and the proper kind of the proper open-mindedness that they both deserve, they'll see that those shows they shouldn't really compete in the quote unquote serialized nature of these two series. They can't.
You can be a fan of both. They can both exist in your head. It's possible.
Right. So kind of like the one-uppance of, I planted my flag first. I planted my flag better. Doesn't matter.
Those are quick waving contests, and I don't care about that.
Yeah.
I don't know about you.
Well, I mean, the truth is that it's outlined in Becoming Superman. I mean, Joe put it out published in fact. I mean, why would he do that if it weren't true? Because he could be, that could be defamation or that could be slander if he was saying the wrong thing, and he doesn't do that. So
no, not Joe. He knows better.
No, I wouldn't want to go toe to
smartest people. I think I look up to.
Well, I mean, and he doesn't espouse kind of like misinformation that way.
Oh,
right?
no.
Why would he?
No.
It doesn't serve him. It doesn't serve the way he writes. It doesn't serve his public. So he doesn't have that kind of ego. And I'm not saying that, the showrunners of Deep Space Nine, like Ron and Ira and Renee, and all those people, Robert Hewitt Wolf, they probably don't even care about it either.
No, they were probably too busy writing the show.
Yeah, they were working. They were like neck deep in how are we going to get this show made?
They had a job to do.
Yeah.
I just the same arguments over and over with no resolution. Just, I don't know. I'm much more likely to just keep scrolling and distance myself from it anymore. I don't know about you. It just, there's nothing new here.
I don't have that kind of time, to be honest.
No,
with
me
you.
neither. Nobody got time for that.
Terry Lynn, we didn't do those podcasts, by the way. Those are the podcasts that we listened to before we started doing our podcast. So Summer, Slice of Sci-Fi, who would come on our show and chat from time to time, that's the show you want to watch. She
does Babylon Podcast.
Babylon Podcast, or Babylon Pod.
And
that's
Audio Guide is a group from people all over North America. I think there's 3 of them. They do a fantastic job.
Yeah, but it was Summer, Tim, and Ardwright Chamberlain who played Kosh. They were on that podcast, the Babylon Podcast or Babylon 5 podcast, and that show. That show was amazing.
They were going before people like really understood what podcasts were before they really hit a mainstream. They were at it. They were doing it.
Yeah.
There's a whole back catalog filled with fantastic interviews and topics. I still haven't combed my way through the whole thing. It's still good stuff though.
That's so funny. Earl says the 90s for me was the various Trek series, Babylon 5, Highlander, the Doctor Who New Adventures novels, as all my reward for surviving 14 to 8 hour work days. It's funny because
Oh,
when he says that, like I've done podcasting for Trek, I've done podcasting for B5, and even before we did our show together, I was doing a show specifically on a friends network called the Fandom Podcast Network, specifically for Highlander. I
that's
did that
right.
show for 3 years.
That was your big project.
Yeah, that was my big project. And I had to say goodbye to that too, just like you had to say goodbye to the Journey, which was your project before you came to, do this.
The Voyager podcast I was doing with Tristan Riddell, we did it for 4 years, 190 episodes. Still very proud of what we did. But we reached a point where we just felt like we were kind of starting to talk like broken records. We were saying a lot of the same things over and over. And we thought it was time for new voices to take over.
Yeah. Thank you for correcting me on that, Robert, because Jeffrey Worleth, not Ardwright Chamberlain.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Robert.
It just rolled off. Ardwright and Kosh just like rolled off the top of my tongue there.
Yeah. Sometimes it's hard to.
I can't keep anything straight anymore. I'm old, man. Behind these long black locks is, it's a near 50-year-old adult brain.
Yeah. The memory just really isn't what it used to be. The older you get, the better it was.
What did you watch? Like everyone's listing their stuff that they watched like hardcore in like the 90s. For you, it was
okay.
I know Voyager was you.
You're gonna love this mix. Of course, Voyager, but of course I was watching Deep Space Nine. I was watching Next Gen before that. I mean, I was a hardcore trekker from the age of 6. I was also watching, probably aside from Star Trek all the time, Beavis and Butthead was probably the next best thing.
That was the one thing I learned about you that just surprised the hell out of me. I'm not judging. I'm just saying, like, I didn't see it. I just did not see it. Yeah. I don't know. I like I said, it didn't. Okay, you want me to say it without? I don't want to say this by being. I don't want to see it seem mean.
Be as crass as you want. Just say.
I don't want to. It just doesn't seem intelligent enough for you.
Oh, but no, writing stupid requires a lot of intelligence, and that's why I appreciate it.
Right, and that's what I've learned to understand by hearing you talk about it, and then by kind of like living vicariously through your appreciation of Lower Decks. Because Mike McMahon is a genius, and you have to have a genius level intellect to write that stupid. Not, I mean, to write characters in that type of way. That's what I should say. They're not stupid characters. They are just written in a way that it's not antithetical to Star Trek characters.
Yeah, it requires a very specific skill to do that. Mike McMahon is fantastic at it. My judge is the absolute genius at it.
Yeah.
He did Beavis and Butthead, King of the Hill, Idiocracy, Office Space, so much more, with more Beavis and Butthead to come. I'm so excited about that.
Did he write Napoleon Dynamite?
No, that was another guy.
He did. It was a series I watched on HBO. What was it called? It was about Silicon Valley.
Oh, yeah. I've heard that was really good. I have not seen that yet, though. Yeah. Now that I have HBO Max, though, I should probably get on that sometime.
It's a smart show.
Yeah.
Smart show. Yeah.
Yeah. Valerie, I also watched Daria, and I appreciated Daria for what it was, too, because as a spinoff, it wasn't the same flavor as Beavis and Butthead. And it was not, appreciating the stupid. It was appreciating the smart.
Mm-hmm.
Of it and what that means in teenage life. Oh, good God, yes. There was so much relatability to that as someone coming of age in the very late 90s. Someone just, too young to be taken seriously, too young to have done anything amazing, really. Mm-hmm. And yet wanting to be taken seriously. That was me too. That was Daria as well.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out a lot of stuff in the 90s. I was just getting out of college. I was trying to find my next career jump or my next educational career jump. So my big show in the 90s that I watched like a ton of was Highlander. Because it was like proper fantasy, like on TV, which was great.
Yeah.
I watched the X-Files a ton. I was a huge X-Files fan.
Sure. Yeah, I eventually got into X-Files too.
Watched a lot of Hercules, watched a lot of Xena. I mean, I run the gambit. I watched Earl. Let's do the checklist. Cleopatra, 2525. Lex. I didn't watch any of the Stargates.
Me neither. I never got into Stargate. And you know why? It's because it was on really late at night for
Was it?
me on like the local affiliate station. I can't stay up till 11 p.m. when I've got school at 7 in the morning. That didn't work.
A lot of the guys, like I was in art school at the time, so a lot of I just kind of like went where everyone was kind of like huddled around the the communal TV, and most of the time was Babylon 5, because a
Nice.
lot of there were a lot of people there that were fans of Babylon 5. This is actually the
That's
late
so cool.
most of the 90s, or actually when I was in college, I watched a lot of TNG, but most of like the mid to late 90s, or even until Enterprise, I pretty much stopped watching Star Trek because I needed something different. I just needed a palate cleanser, right?
Yeah, there was a lot
Yeah.
of Star Trek burnout at that time, I think. I mean, when DS9 and Voyager were reaching their ends, I was pretty cool on Star Trek too. And by the time Enterprise came out,
Mhm.
I was in college, and my time was not nearly the same as it was in high school. And so I started watching Enterprise, but I fell off the bandwagon fairly fast, midway in the first season, not because it was bad, but just because, man, I needed that time for other stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I eventually went back and did watch it. And it's a good show in its own right. It has something to offer. But you know what? Enterprise probably should have had a little bit of more of a break. I know they were trying so hard to just keep, scooping up the same old crap we always loved and giving us more of it. But no, they should have taken a break so that Rick Berman and Brandon Braga could have developed a completely different concept for the show.
Oh, they wanted to.
That's what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
and they just didn't give them that time to really do it. And they did the best they could with what they did have. And unfortunately, I just don't think it came to be for them,
When Earl is mentioning UPN, and just kind of like it sparked up another show that I watched, and it wasn't on the UPN to begin with, but it was on the W when the WB came out, and then it came with the CW. It was Buffy.
Uh-huh.
I watched a ton of
Oh,
Buffy and Angel. Ton.
Yeah.
Loved that show.
Yeah, that was another big one, wasn't it? I did not watch that show. I still have not watched that show. Yeah. Earl, I wish I did have a actual UPN station to watch when I was growing up. I mean, I grew up in a small-ish city in Wyoming where nobody really cared about Star Trek there. I didn't know how to push for it myself, and therefore we got what we got.
Yeah. Yeah. I love all the comments that are coming. If you have comments, or if you want to ask us any questions, because it's probably going to be a while until you see us next, feel free to ask us those questions, and we'll answer them to the best of our ability. But let's talk about so we started covering the HBO, Babylon 5 remastered version.
Yes,
and we got the first 3 episodes, and we were going to do Infection. That was going to be the next episode, but we just obviously didn't get around to it. So
yeah,
I hope people continue watching the remastered version, because if there's any version to watch, that's the one.
It is. And I'm hoping some fan comes across what we've done and realizes that we kind of dropped the ball on that. We lost our wind, and picks up the mantle and does their version of it. Because I know there's people out there. And if you are that person who eventually does do that, I don't know about you, Norm. I don't want to speak for you, but I completely support whoever that may be. Do it, do it, do it because you love it.
Yep. Do it because you love it. That's the only way to do it, right?
Yes.
That's
right.
the only way.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's something that I learned when I was working in the corporate world, and especially in sales, is that you can teach somebody how to sell, but you can't teach them passion.
Yeah, good point.
Right. And passion is what breaks the tie between two people, between two products that you're trying to sell. You can sell anyone on it's going to make you X amount of profit. You're going to bring in X amount of business for your store. Sure, both products can do that. One product can, like, you can lower the price and say, like, well, we're going to give you more margin on the sale. But if you don't have the passion, you're not going to make the sale.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
so people listen to people for their passionate beliefs, not because you're espousing anything that they can read now off the internet, which is pretty much like tech stuff or reviews or other people's opinions that they're having opinions on. No, you have to sell your own opinion. You have to be true to yourself, because that's what's the most honest thing about covering something with passion, right? It's the honesty of it.
Well, that's what people trust more than anything, right? Is if you really believe in this and you get that person on board, well, it's a done deal.
Right.
You know, they're buying into the passion of it because that person has sold you on whatever it is, the benefits, what you're going to get out of it, whatever the deal is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
passion, you can't teach someone passion. You can teach someone how to sell, but without that enthusiasm, that passion,
The fire in the belly.
it's not the
There's the killer.
same. Mm-mm.
Looking back, like at all the shows that we've done a lot. Are there any topics that we haven't touched that you've always wanted to get to?
Oh, golly. We covered the really big ones, especially early on, because we both made our wish list of
That's true.
topics that we wanted to cover. And we tackled so many of those that I'm honestly at a loss thinking, nah, we got the ones that we really needed to get to. How about
True
you?
enough. I think that I would have liked to have done a little bit more coverage on Crusade, just because I think that Crusade, I would have liked to have framed it as if Crusade could have continued, these are the reasons why. These are kind of like the foundations that Joe laid, and the reason why it got so convoluted because of the network interference, and because, you know, for a serialized show, part 2, you can't jumble, you know, the order of things. You know, you can't because that's you're gonna have a bad first impression, and you're gonna set people off that are basically, you're going to take your core group of fans that are the Babylon 5 fans that stuck it out with you through TNT, through the whole telepath story and the war with the Centauri, you know, for whatever feelings that they have about that, they're the ones that are going to spearhead you into the next series. And if you lose them, you're going to lose everybody else, because they're the advocates for your new show, the ones that have passion. And if you can't sell them, they're not going to be able to sell the next wave of fans. And then it just kind of rolls downhill from there.
Yeah. You know, one interesting topic that I don't think we really covered in depth, we did with Crusade to a point, but we could maybe have delved deeper into this. Was TNT the right fit for Babylon 5? And thus Crusade and anything that spun off of that? Why not Sci-Fi Channel or something like that? TNT was not necessarily a sci-fi market until Babylon 5, and nobody was convincing the Babylon 5 audience to watch TNT programming, and vice versa, because it was all like wrestling and sports.
Right. Well, there was a shift in, you could tell that there was a weird shift in programming. There's John Kokorian, who he interviewed me for Trek Profiles for his Babylon 5 spinoff of the Trek Profiles podcast. And he talked about how there was this TNT, like a 30-second, 45-second update called Rough Cut at the very end of like the Babylon 5 show to talk about wrestling and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And it was painful to watch. You know, all of a sudden, like this kind of like sports-esque announcer like walked into John Sheridan's office, and it was Bruce Boxleitner on set behind his desk as President Sheridan, and they're basically calling, "Hey Bruce, how's it going?" And you're like, "No, you don't do that. You're breaking the fourth wall. You're breaking the illusion of the show. You know, that's not how it's done. You know, that's not the way fans wanted to kind of see their entertainment served up."
Yeah,
in that
I don't
fashion.
know. The whole TNT thing, even though it did give us the 5th season of Babylon 5, always struck me as a little bit weird. Not gonna lie. And Earl, you're right. Sci-Fi Channel at the time really was cheap. It probably would have killed the show, unfortunately. They were already on a shoestring budget. That would have been so much worse. And I guess Straczynski did try with Rising Stars or Legend of the Rangers. Wrong thing. Which did not take off. It did not get bought.
I think that if Babylon 5, say, was created now, or if the dynamic of entertainment the way it is right now was done during back then, you know, you would have had a lot of these other platforms to be able to pitch to. I mean, you have Amazon, the way they were able to do that and pick up The Expanse after the end of season 3.
Right.
And then bring it to their channel. Then it didn't exist. So I think that Joe was like, okay, so here's my only way to get the 5th season out, by hook or by crook. I got to take it because they're the only ones that are going to offer me money for it, or only have, and I need to get this out in a timely fashion, or else this project may be lost altogether. So they probably had him behind the 8 ball for negotiation, and they're like, okay, I just need to finish my story, because I think that for a showrunner who had envisioned telling a 5-year story and only getting 4, that's kind of like if anyone was fans of Farscape, it's like not getting what we haven't gotten yet. We haven't gotten the end of that series. We haven't gotten the Peacekeeper Wars, not to the extent that we want. So at least Joe got his raison d'etre, his 5th season, deceleration of a 5-year arc.
And 4 movies.
And 4 movies and a host of other kind of like spin-offy kind of shows. That's a lot, after, a season 4 cancellation. That's a lot of material that he was still able to get out.
That's true. And it was at such an 11th hour that anybody taking at that point was, hooray, it was a victory.
That's a great point by Earl. Babylon 5 was a show made for the streaming age almost 30 years before the streaming age. And it's because of that serialization. It's because you can binge. That show is meant to be binge watched.
Yeah. Honestly, the distribution for Babylon 5 probably would have been so different if it were coming out today. I could see it as a Netflix show or a Hulu show or any of the streaming platforms, honestly. And you would have that hardcore niche audience, and it would have gotten the 5 seasons, no problem. Right. No questions asked.
Yeah. And it's
except
the way
on
that
Netflix, they cancel after 2 seasons.
Oh, that's true. They have.
Sense8, anybody?
But that's a good point, because when Babylon 5, for some extent and purpose, for Deep Space Nine, Ron Moore's Battlestar Galactica, these were kind of like the pillars of the serialized format. So if it weren't for these shows, the shows in the format, the way they create them today for streaming, for binge watchability, wouldn't exist, right? Because like say Star Trek Discovery, it's like a 10 episode serialized story, broken up into these 10-hour-long formats. And if you watch it all, it's just one long 10-hour movie.
Yeah. So that really calls into question, would we have had shows like Lost that brought the more serialized format to mainstream network TV?
You beat Earl to it.
Yay. Great minds. Yeah, but then everything just kind of spinballed after that, because Lost got huge. And so everybody said, okay, we got to do that thing.
Right. And that does take a page of science fiction history, because I know Earl's screaming, don't forget to say Blake 7, because Blake 7 is a serialized show that Joe Straczynski also references many times over as inspiration for Babylon 5's narrative, or storytelling, I should say, storytelling style. But also Doctor Who. Doctor Who is incredibly serialized, especially in like the chunk segments that it used to tell in terms of like half-hour, 6-part storylines, which turns into like a 3-hour-long movie when you watch it all together.
Yeah. Right? And then, by the time they're getting to the 2010s or so with the Matt Smith era, and before that, David Tennant even, they're doing big series-long story arcs.
Right.
They're incredible. I'm watching them right now for the first time. It's so much fun.
Oh, are you really?
Well, I'm watching the Matt Smith era.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I've got one more to go, and then it's time for another Doctor. That is one thing, is I get so attached to either the Doctor or the companions, and then I know they're going to eventually say goodbye way too soon. It keeps things fresh, and yet, why do they keep doing this to me, Norm?
Because they want you, because Stephen Moffat wants you to cry all your tears.
Yeah. Oh, he and Russell T Davies are really good at that. Let's just put it that way. Thoroughly enjoying it, and yet just like, damn. Yeah. I want to address a comment that's a little further up that we haven't addressed yet, which is from Robert about the AOL chat between Bruce Boxleitner and Claudia Christian. Yes, I remember that too. Yeah. Oh God, that was fun. Back when that was a Novell thing. And we had AOL accounts, and you could go into the chat and see these people, put up text. God, not even video, nothing, no audio, just text, but having a dang good time. I also remember the last day they were shooting in 98, the last episode of Babylon 5, they had a live chat. And a couple of cast members occasionally popped on there and described what was happening, had some sentiments about the show. And then there was just all of us, tear going down the cheek, knowing it was the last thing that they were doing. And we were going to eventually say goodbye. Oh, man, that was fun, though. That was, I want to say, early March of 98. And I do not remember which platform that one was on.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember either. Again, there are only so many things that I can keep track of nowadays.
The brain is a hard drive, and it's only got so much space. And as you put something in, eventually something goes out.
So Valerie says, I was in a Yahoo fan group for Mira way back. I think it was Yahoo.
Back when Yahoo Groups was a huge deal. Oh, yeah.
That's so weird how like Yahoo just got just so kind of like outpaced by Google so quickly.
Oh, man. Yeah, Google just took over everything, didn't it?
Yeah. I'm surprised that they don't have their own channel and streaming service. I mean, aside from like YouTube,
well, YouTube they bought YouTube.
Yeah.
This is their streaming service.
I guess so. Yeah. And it's, I mean, this like I said, it's unique because we can do this, right? I mean, like Zoom calls and stuff like that, those are fine, Teams or whatever, but this is like really like the platform where, I mean, if it wanted to, we could monetize this, you know, the people that are listening right now, all of our wonderful fans, you know, they'd be throwing us like a $3 donation here or a $5 donation there, you know, for us to read certain specific things. That's not what we wanted to do here. We didn't really want to hardcore monetize it because I think it sets a certain expectation of what you can and can't say, how you can and can't say it, you know, and it puts you on the hook for like a lot more responsibility, you know, when there are dollars behind it.
Yeah, and we're allergic to responsibility as much as possible. So
yeah, we already got way too much of that.
We wanted our freedom, like good Americans do, and we wanted to do this our way.
So, the Discord server. Let's talk a little bit about that. So, what can people expect from that, Char?
Well, by no means is it going away. We're going to keep the lights on as long as folks want to continue talking in there. So don't worry about that. It's not going anywhere. And if you do want to join and you're not a part of the Discord server, I'll put in a temporary link. This will expire after 7 days. So I hope you guys catch this fairly quick. If not, you can get to me or Norm on Twitter, and we can send you an invite code that way. But I'll put in an invite code here into the chat. If you catch us quick enough,
you're posting that up. I wanted to say hi to Julie Miller. I'm surprised Julie haven't seen enough of me or gotten sick enough of my voice. Julie is one of our patrons on Mission Log Patreon.
Oh, cool. Hello.
Yeah. So nice to have you here. And I'm sorry that you're coming in on our say like the last 15 or so minutes of our broadcast.
That's okay.
But you can always go back in our archive. Our archive it's vast. You know, there's so many different topics to talk about. And the reason why I wanted to kind of like stick with just kind of like the title card so that people could scroll through all the different shows and kind of like find the topic that they want. If you want to talk about passing through Gethsemane, if you want to talk about the mind wipe, you know, if you want to talk about the telepath war, if you want to talk about just certain characters like Sheridan versus Sinclair, or, you know, why Jakar's. That was a good one. That was one. Comparing and contrasting the two. Although I was watching a clip of when Sinclair and Naroon were talking, and they were talking about, you know, the death of Brenmer, and you know, when Sinclair says, you know, we should stop fighting. It's the time the fighting stopped. You know, the war is over. We should start talking to each other. You know, and that's when Naroon says, "You speak like a Minbari." You know, I'm like, "Oh, hey,
yeah, chills, right?" Yeah. Now that you know what that really means,
God,
I love John comments are taking me way back to my earliest days on the internet in the mid '90s. Usenet. Were you on Usenet, Norm?
I was on Usenet.
Oh my God, what did you subscribe to? Tell me.
Probably Highlander.
I did a lot of the alt.Star Trek forums, especially the fanfic forums. Oh, I was really into the fanfic.
Yeah, this is why I remember why I was alt.tv.highlander, because that's where it was the only forum where a bunch of us who played like the trading card game were able to exchange like deck ideas and strategies and things of that nature.
Oh, yeah.
And then that eventually moved to basically email chains where there were like a handful of us that would compete, you know, in different states, and we would like, you know, talk about strategies and things of that nature. Although this is when you had to remember to disconnect your modem and not hopefully dial a number that was long distance.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, that was a problem in those days.
Yeah.
Now you wouldn't even think about it, but yeah, the fact that you had to dial up at all.
Yeah.
That was, I'll never forget that sound. Never. Gosh, I remember the days we only had one phone line in my house. And of
Pick up the
course, I
phone.
would be online. I'd be on AOL maybe. My mom, are you online? I need to make a phone call.
Exactly. You pick up the line. It's like, shh. Like,
she hated that sound so much. She would just immediately start yelling, get off the phone.
You know, Valerie, I don't know if you know this. I don't know if it's out there, but someone should make a ringtone of that sound. Right?
Oh my God. Somebody had to have done this already, right?
Ding dong, ding dong.
Ding, ding, ding. Oh my God, yes.
Right. That's like a red alert klaxon, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh.
And once you looked at your, you know, you kind of like the dotted line kept moving. You're like, okay, is this stable? Is this not stable? Is it stable? Right? It's like, am I on? Am I not on? Am I on?
You could lag out and then it would disconnect you. You'd have to try and reconnect and hope you could pick up right where you were. And that was an absolute crapshoot.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean,
Those
it
are the
feels
days.
downright archaic compared to today, but man, it was such a thing back then. It was so novel, and the internet was so, dare I say, innocent compared to the way it was.
Far more than it was.
Newer frontier, and not everybody was on it. And so if you were in the know, you know, you were a little bit of a nerd, but it was so much fun.
I think it was more about sharing information than it was about kind of like self-marketing, you know, or
yeah, definitely.
You know,
branding wasn't like that.
Yeah, techno-narcissism.
Indeed. Yeah, you're right. You would go on Usenet and you'd go to rec.arts.tv.babylon5 or whatever it is you want to go to and talk about your favorite things.
Yeah.
And that was it. You know, you just wanted to talk with like-minded people like we do on the Discord. And Earl is doing a really fun thing right now. I started the party. He's continuing it in full force, though. I found a little bot that does text to speech. And you can tell it to say anything in a whole variety of voices. One of my favorites is Alex Trebek. I think it's one of the very best. There's a whole variety, though. We, you know, from like Tupac Shakur to Leonard Nimoy to Beavis and Butthead. I mean,
those are three names I never thought that they would be, or four names I never thought it would be in the same sentence. Like
and you know what? I love them all. I love Leonard. I love Beavis and Butthead, and Tupac Shakur is one of my favorite musical artists of all time.
Oh, so there you go. Thug. No, you're straight up thug. I didn't know that.
Oh man, no, he was really freaking smart.
Oh yes, he was. Yeah, like scary smart.
Yeah, and there's so much good stuff that goes into his lyrics. If you're really listening to them, he's telling a good story. Pay attention. It's so good. Oh my God. Anyway, so he's taking these things and finding the very best of it and the very worst of it. And I'll just leave it at that. Get on the Discord server. It's in the Zathras bot test channel, just because I wasn't sure how it was going to go, but we're having fun.
By the way, I don't know if you saw this. Joe confirmed that the plural of Zathras is Zathri.
This is very important news. Also in the Discord, by the way. Yes, that is now canon.
Would it be Zathri or Zathrai?
Zathrai, I think.
Zathrai. Sounds good.
Now,
right?
Maybe he needs to make a pronunciation guide.
Right.
Tell us for sure.
I'm not, you know, it could go either way. It could be the long eye or the short eye. Right.
Okay. Can somebody get on Twitter right now and get on this?
Your job, if you choose to accept it, is to continue this show with that very specific first topic. Zathrai. Long eye or short eye?
We've got the spelling now, but let's get specifics now.
Yeah, exactly.
We need all the detail. And maybe that's the next edition of the B5 Encyclopedia. It's not just the whole comprehensive thing to read. It's we need pronunciations, use it in a sentence, you know, audio clips and whatnot.
Oh, you when you type it into Google, it'd be Zathri.
Yeah.
Zathri. Oh, well, there you go.
Must B5.
Exactly. The appendices, the B5 appendices. That's what we need.
Okay, Captain Jacqueline, you have a new mission. We're signing work today, apparently. We've decided we're not going to do this for a little while. We're on indefinite hiatus. We're just going to make work for other people. That's fine.
So on that same call I had this morning, I said, if you really want, for anyone who wants to create a Babylon 5 starter kit or a collection, you know, I would say, you know, definitely invest in the B5 DVDs. Even though they have the remastered versions online, you definitely want to get the B5 DVDs because they have the bonus features that you don't get streaming. And there are a lot of great interviews on all of them, on Crusade, on The Legend of the Rangers, on Lost Tales, especially Lost Tales, because that's that's Joe's tribute to Andreas.
Yeah.
And then you want to get at least the paperback version of the B5 encyclopedia for handy dandy reference. If you can get those, like those in your collection, that would run you roughly a little over about $150 US, right? I mean, I'm talking like the Babylon 5, the 5 seasons alone, you can get those for around $70-$80. The encyclopedia on Amazon, the paperback version of it, you can get for around $50. So that's really all you need for pretty much like 90% of what you need to know about Babylon 5, I think.
That's a good call. Those are the absolute must-have staples. It's a wise investment. It's not a huge investment. It's just enough to have the core of what you really need for reference.
I mean, if like Warner Brothers or HBO under their brand, if they actually put physical copies of that out, I'd snap them up, because the remastered versions are the best versions of the show. They're in the proper aspect ratio, and they are in the best possible resolution, even the effects from season 1.
Yeah, I would love. We talked a little bit about that.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to have some sort of a copy, because what if we're not subscribers to HBO or HBO Max forever? I guess you could download them on iTunes, but if you want an actual physical copy, because anything that you can download is not a guaranteed thing.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. It can only be hosted for so long, or not necessarily, in ad infinitum. If I'm using that properly. But it's also, again, it's nice to have the very limited amount of special features that you actually do get. Now, of course, you can probably watch those on here on like YouTube or other streaming platforms where you can find like behind the scenes stuff. But even, those are just up to the whims of the host, if they want to continue that channel or not, or unless they get flagged, because some of the things that they put up aren't official.
Yeah. And so that's the risk.
Yeah. So Terry Lynn, the VCR tapes are spotty when it comes to collecting all of them. There are only a handful of them. They're not in full seasons.
They
never came out in full
quality
seasons
anymore. If you're getting them used, who knows how much they've been played.
But you would get, it's probably one of the easier ways to get the original The Gathering pilot episode, because that was the unedited version when it came out on VHS. So yeah, there's as much as I love VHS tapes, they just never came out with full seasons. They only came out with kind of like these clusters, like these 3 tape packs of 2 episodes per tape, and that's it. That's all they had. Laserdiscs, not an option. So the original DVD sets, when they came out on DVD for the very first time, it was like mind blowing. Like, oh my god, I can't believe that they're actually putting these out on DVD.
Right, that's a big deal. And then they stretched them.
Well, there's that. But sometimes, beggars can't be choosers sometimes.
Yeah.
Until now.
I kind of wish that over the years I had kept my old VHS tapes, because I was too cheap and poor to be able to buy the official sets on VHS of anything. So I had, the episodes I recorded with commercials. I just hoped that the TV or the VCR was programmed to start right at about the right time and finish at the right time. I had it down to a science for a lot of shows, especially with the Star Trek shows. And God, I would just play them and play them and play them all the time.
Yeah, they were precious.
It was my background noise,
Yeah, those were precious. Those were still precious to us, because they held a lot of value for us, as a collectible, because we didn't have them available like in mass distribution the way we have now.
Well, unfortunately, a lot of those tapes just got so degraded over time from overuse that I eventually didn't keep a lot of them.
No,
or they, happens. Eventually they went to somebody else and they taped over them or what have you. And I was, because I just moved on and times have changed. I didn't even have a VCR.
Hopefully they're here.
Oh, of course.
Most of them, right?
Yeah. And then when the DVDs came out, well, there we go.
I want to address Robert's question. So anyone else have the books Joe published about the show about 15 years ago? Which one specifically? Are you talking about the B5 script books from b5books.com? Because there are still a handful of people that sell like the full collections of like all the script books and things like that. John Krikorian on that show that we did together for Trek Profiles, He has all of them. And I said, so you mean you have that? And he looks at me and he goes, all of them. I go, all right. I'm like, okay, it's like, I mean, like he goes, he said that, one on top of the other, they stand about a little over 6 feet in height.
Wow.
Yeah. And he has them in like sealed, like moisture proof, plastic bins that he only opens on occasion. Yeah. So that
good for him.
Robert, so you could check out b5books.com to see if they have a list of what they have available. Sometimes they'll get private collectors that will resell their sealed or at least near mint conditions back to B5 Books for redistribution. That's only happened a couple times, but that's possible. Or you could pick up a rifle shot of, say, one volume that you want to get with a series of scripts that you want. You can look at eBay for that. You can look at Amazon for that. Those are a little bit more hit and miss, but you might be able to fill out whatever holes in your collection that you have. I still think
he has them all.
Oh, he does. Well, good for you.
Yeah. That's pretty awesome.
And then there's, of course, the B5 Encyclopedia, the leather-bound hard copy version, which is
amazing.
Primo, right?
Yeah.
With the green and purple satin bookmarks.
Indeed. Well, Norm, we've hit our hour. Do you have any final parting thoughts before we go?
I, like you said earlier on, this isn't kind of like a wake. This is a celebration. So all I can say is that, and I told Char this, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. If anything great that came out of this show, if I can name one thing, it was doing this show with Char.
Back at you.
I'm gonna make her blush more pink than her t-shirt right now, but I love this woman to death.
Yeah,
I do. She's smart, she's sharp, she has the passion for Babylon 5 that it's really hard to come by in people, and she's honest, and she tells you exactly what she wants you to hear, or I mean the honesty from her.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear.
She tells you exactly what is on her mind. That's what I wanted to say.
There you go. Yeah, the filter is never really been there.
Yeah. So, but it's been a pleasure. Just like I said, doing our pre-show, just to catch up with our lives. I've had a chance to meet her wonderful husband, Patrick. He's a fabulous guy, and her kitten boyos.
When they would peek out their heads.
Yeah. So if for anything, that's probably the greatest gift that I've received during this show, aside from making friends with all of you, all of our listeners. So it's been nothing but a blessing. That's all I really can say.
Yeah. Can I just echo everything you just said, only to say you and the last 3 years I've loved, and I'm going to miss doing this whole ritual with you, because it's a ritual. It's very Minbari. Doing the pregame, and we still keep in touch. I mean, that's never going to change, but having that little bit of a pregame just to catch up and talk before doing the show, man, that it will suck to not do that part, because that was a lot of fun, but
just not as regularly.
Well, this is true. I mean, we were just on a phone call a few days ago, so not a whole lot is changing for us necessarily. It's just we've got this penciled in for the last 3 years. It was built into our lives. And Norm, I thank you for your friendship, your commitment to doing this. Just being you. You're awesome, sir. You are also a wonderful, honest, caring, generous, wonderful, and fun person to be around. And I can't thank you enough for that. And I appreciate you sharing your life with me, and the friendship that has ensued, your buns and your partner, Carol, all of it. It's just, you're one of my people in life,
I appreciate that. And, I feel the same way. If for anyone who wants to stay in touch with us, let's give them our contact information, so you can always message us. If you ever want to get into a conversation about Babylon 5, or just if you need to reach out and just say, hey, you know what, here I am, here's how you can stay in touch with us.
Yeah, let's do that, because I mean, the show might be on hiatus, but we're all over the place. You can find me probably best on Twitter. And aside from the Discord server, on Twitter, I have 2 handles. My personal account is The Profanity, And then you can see on the banner my work one where you can see my nerdy coding stuff, Char writes code. Norm, where can they find you?
Well, you can find me at Mission Log Pod. That's the Mission Log Podcast email. Or you can find me on Twitter or on Instagram at Lounge Lizard. That's my last name, LaongeLazard. And that's where you can email me. That's where you can find me. Again, those are my social media accounts, and on Facebook too. But, most of the people here know that the majority of my time is spent on taking care of my responsibilities from the Mission Log podcast on the Roddenberry Podcast Network. So that's all known. But Char, you have a lot of things that are happening right now. So what's going on for you next?
Well, let's see. I am doing a podcasting thing. So if you like Star Trek Lower Decks, check out the commentary podcast I do with my friend Tristan Riddell. We'll do a day of episode release commentary track to go along with a new episode. We do it really quick to try and just make you rewatch it as soon as possible, because that's essentially what we do. We'll watch it once and then we do the commentary, and that's a lot of fun doing that as long as the show is putting out new stuff. And so we've got a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, stuff I'm doing for fun.
Well, don't forget to mention Babel for 5. That's a very, very important part of your Babylon 5
Sorry,
journey.
I forgot about that just because the majority of it we finished in November, but that is a show that I did with my husband who watched Babylon 5 for the very first time, and we did little episode reviews after watching an episode every time, and then we would cut the footage down to 5 minutes for a Babel for 5, just a real bite-size thing. And that was a really fun project to share with my husband. And that way, when Norm, you and I would get really nerdy and talk about Babylon 5 when we did in-person get-togethers, he finally understood all we were talking about.
Yeah, but it's really great to see like a first-time experience, in the perspective of certain things where like, oh, you can't wait until you get to, oh, wait, and
how many times did we do it?
It's so nice to see that kind of enthusiasm for something that we've known for so long.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So much fun. So there is that. And there are some things we've got in the can. Eventually, we hope to release the movie Babel for 5s, because we did record them. We just have to edit them down now and release them. So check that out at The Nerd Party. They're on YouTube.
And it's Robert says that's how he found our channel.
No kidding. Hey, that's cool.
So, yeah, right?
Nice. Yeah, it's good to know we had some sort of an impact.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Thank you so much.
And that's, that's the best that we can expect. As long as we've had an impact in a positive way in people's lives and in people's fandom, I consider what we have done here a success.
Likewise.
Yeah.
All right. Well, shall we leave off for now?
We shall. So, thank you, everybody, for all of your support. Thank you for watching us. And if you have the time to spare, make sure and watch our back library, our back catalog full of all types of topics for Babylon 5. If you miss us, you'll see me in various stages of hair growth. Either I have a mustache or I have short hair or both. So don't hold that against me, but it is kind of funny to see. Just, enjoy your Babylon 5 fandom, because we are a very special breed of fan. I know that we all support each other, because we all know that the struggle to find other Babylon 5 fans is real. And it's our job to help usher along the next generation of Babylon 5 fans.
Who are coming up, who are watching the show on HBO Max. Their first watch is with the Remastered. And we know people who are doing this, and I can't wait for them to finish up the series and just join in the conversation with us, who have always been here.
Yep. So when you see them out there, be kind, be supportive, and until next time, whenever that is, be seeing you.
Take care, everybody. Talk to you on Discord.